Do you have trouble opening jars and bottles at your house? Well, my mom does, and more recently she hurt her right arm and it's in a cast now. So she only has her left hand to work with to try and open jars and bottles. So in order to help my mom out, I have accumulated and or purchased 5 different styles of bottle and jar openers. And that's what we're going to review today. I'm going to talk about the pluses and minuses of each one. And we're also going to talk about whether you can use it and open a jar or a bottle with just one hand, or does it take 2 hands to use that tool. So welcome to Cooking and Storing with Ann and Wayne. We really appreciate you visiting with us. And if you enjoy our video, we'd really appreciate it if you'd click like, do all those things. And so now let's get on with reviewing these different bottle and jar openers. Now the first jar opener I'm going to demonstrate is this one, and this I had out in my shop. So there are models that you can purchase that are much smaller and easier to handle, but I didn't want to buy one, so I'm going to use this. But like I said, you can get smaller models, but the way this works is you put your jar lid in here, you pull it like that, and then you twist, and they work very well, but I think it's a little bit cumbersome as compared to some of the other models we got. So let's show you a close-up of how it works. The way this one works, as I said, you put the jar lid inside the loop. If the loop's too big, you can pull this in back here. I think you can see that in the video right there. Just tighten it up some, and then you turn it so that these teeth here grip this rubber, and at that point you just do that and it'll take your lid off. Just that simple. This is the next one I'm going to demonstrate. It's got a little turn handle on the top. It's got 3 grippers underneath that grip your lid, and basically you just put it on top of your lid. You turn this until you tighten it up. Hold the bottom of your jar and twist, and it'll take your lid right off. They do work well, but you got to have 2 hands to operate it. Just like the previous one I showed you, you got to have both hands to operate it. Now let me show you a close-up of it. As I said, this is the top, and you turn this to tighten up the 3 grippers underneath that tighten down on the lid of your jar. So you put it on here, snug that up, hold the bottom of your jar and twist, and it'll take your jar lid right off. This is the third one I'm going to show you. It is very unique from all the others in the fact that it mounts up underneath one of your cabinets. It will be permanently mounted up underneath a cabinet like that. And so when you wanted to open your jar, you just put your jar in here and turn it. This would be permanently affixed to your underside of your cabinet, like I said. And all you'd have to do is put your jar up there, turn it, and it would loosen the lid. If you do purchase one of these, I will warn you that these teeth on here are much sharper than I think they need to be. And if you get your hand up in there close to that, it could possibly cut you. So just be aware of that if you get one of these. But they do work very well. If you mount it underneath your cabinet, it's always there and it's out of sight, out of mind. But when you need to open your jar, it's there and ready to be used. So I do like these. You might could open a lot of jars with one hand. If a jar was really tight, you'd probably still need 2 hands to operate this one though. So let's get some up close video of that now. This is a close-up of the one that mounts under the counter. And there's those teeth I was telling you about. I just think those are much too sharp. I think they could hurt you. That's a good view of them. But anyway, it mounts up under your cabinet. Obviously this is upside down from where it would be mounted under your cabinet. But you just put a jar in there, turn it, and it would loosen your jar lid. I think this is the most convenient one to use because it mounts permanently and it'll be out of sight, out of mind, except for when you need to use it. But I think I said before, I would recommend that you hold your jar with both hands when you use it, just so you don't slip and lose control of things. Now the fourth tool I want to talk about is this one. And these basically open up, they clamp down on the lid of your jar so you can turn it. Sometimes when you order these in some places, all you get is this. Other places you also get a rubber mat, which I have found somewhat useful. And you also may get this, which is a bottle opener. Now I'm going to start with this. The bottle opener part only works on this size of bottle. Just set it on there, turn it, works really good. It's also got little tabs for your drink cans. I have found that that doesn't work well at all, but the part for these caps works exceptionally well. But getting back to the jar opener and my pickle jar, this thing will open up, but it won't open this jar. It will open up wide enough that you can get it on there, but the jar is just too wide, and when you try to loosen it, it tends to slip off the top. It just, this size is just too big for it. But I have found that, you know, the size of this mayonnaise jar fits really well, and it'll tighten that very, very easily. Now, one thing that the mat can do to really help you, if you don't have a lot of grip, when you hold your jar, don't just hold the jar, but press down on it some, and that will make the rubber mat more effective. So when you press down, the mat helps you a lot. You do that, and it'll be a lot easier to get your lid loose. So I found that very useful. All right, let's try to show some of this up close. This one I like in a lot of ways because of this mat. It really does help hold your jar to keep it from twisting. And I think my mom will like this. It won't fit on this jar obviously, but you know, you put it on there like so. Let me move this over so you can see it better. And this part, you can do it this way. If the jar lid's a little bit smaller, you can turn over and can do this way. But if you choose a size that matches your jar best, you'll be better off. And I think I said before, if you hold the jar and press down a little bit, you get a lot more grip from that mat. And then you just do that, and it'll turn your lid and loosen it right up. And this works very well on your drink bottles. But the other parts, I don't think too much of. This is the fifth tool for opening jars that I wanted to review. It's a Robo Twist. Supposed to be basically a hands-free, one-touch kind of thing. It says it only works on glass jars with a screw-top lid. A little bit of a negative, but it does a real good job here. Basically, you just put it on top. You mash the button and hold it, they say 5 to 7 seconds until it starts doing its thing. Then you release the button and then you just wait. It takes it a little bit of time to run, but it does loosen the lid and it does a very good job. I have used this actually on jars that had never been opened, and it still opened them. You know, it struggles. You can tell that it's straining a little bit at times, but it does open them just fine. So that's that one. It says in instructions not to use it on plastic bottles. It does open this mayonnaise jar without any trouble, but sometimes it didn't function quite like it's supposed to. It says it says not to use canning jars. I have found that it will remove the ring, but what it does not do is remove the seal that's on top of a canning jar. It will not remove that, but it will remove the ring. They do say in the instructions that if you have something that has a seal around it, you know, some jars will have a plastic seal around the lid, you got to remove that first. I think that's kind of a duh, but that's what the instructions tell you. If you got something like this, it's got the little child safety thing. It's probably not going to open that, but then here again, it's not supposed to work. They say not to use it on plastic bottles anyway. Bottles like this, it will open those. I have opened some of these. It works just fine. This lid is 1.2 inches or 1.1 inches in diameter. The instructions say not to use it on something less than 1.2. So according to the instructions, it's not intended for a lid this small. But I have got it somewhat reliably to open these drink bottles. Not every time, but most of the time it will open that, even though it's a little bit smaller than what the instructions say it will. But if you want a complete review of this, I did a complete review of this product because there's a lot of details about it. I'll put a link in the description to that video if you're interested. But again, it's the Robo Twist. It will let you open a jar with one hand. I like that. I think my mom will really like this. And may show you her using it here in a little bit. But that's the fifth and final one that I tend to review. So let's do a recap. So here's the 5 tools that I reviewed for opening jars and bottles. This, it does work, but you'll have to have 2 hands. And as I said earlier, there are smaller models that's more convenient and useful for in your kitchen. This is more for larger stuff, working on cars and things. But you can get smaller models. This has been in the family for quite some time. It works very well, but you got to have 2 hands. You got to be able to grip that jar on the bottom very good. It could be very well benefit from this mat, but it doesn't come with one. But it does work quite well, but you need 2 hands. This I like because it mounts permanently under your cabinet where it's out of sight, out of mind. I think in some cases you could open a jar with 1 hand. I think in a lot of cases you would need 2 hands. I would recommend you use 2 hands if you use one of these, just to make sure you don't slip and drop your jar or something. I found this particularly useful if you've got 2 hands, and I think my mom could use this to open with just using 1 hand and putting her cast on top of it, because this mat would help out. I really do like the bottle opener part of this. This is by far my favorite, but sometimes it can be a little aggravating too. So that's basically the 5, and this one you definitely can open a jar lid with 1 hand, but it's got to be a glass jar with a screw top lid. So anyway, that's my review of these 5 jar and bottle openers. And at this point, I'd just like to say thank you for visiting Cooking and Storing with Ann and Wayne, and we just wish you good food, safe storage, and happiness. Thank you for visiting.